What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the show. Today, I'm excited to introduce Eric Henry, the founder and president of TS Designs, a North Carolina-based t-shirt printing company that has been committed to sustainability and social responsibility for over 40 years. Eric is a pioneer in the sustainable fashion industry, and his company has been recognized for its innovative approach to environmentally responsible manufacturing. What they do is more than just a business. It's a force for positive change in the fashion industry. Eric has been a vocal advocate for improving working conditions and protecting the environment, and his company's commitment to transparency and accountability has set new standards for ethical manufacturing. As always, if you like the show, please share with a homie, tag me on social, and definitely subscribe. It means the world to me. Enjoy the show. Eric, welcome to the show.
How's everything on the West Coast today, or somebody would call the left coast?
It's somehow still not great weather, which is just wildly shocking. You going for you over there?
A little bit cooler than it's the normal time of year. So being, half of my life is in the agriculture side, half is in the apparel side. So things are slowly going in the ground for this time of year.
Nice. Glad to hear that. I start all of my shows by asking a question, but before I do that, I actually just want to hit something that I hit you with right before we started recording. So I was like, let's just talk about it while we're recording, which was, I said, how's it going? And you told me that you were basically, you said something in regards to, withstanding and living in the chaos. Like, what's your sentence that you said?
Well, I've got a couple. One I didn't tell you about. I describe my days as I juggle water. Some days better than others. But yes, the world is very chaotic, globally from a business perspective. So it's you got to keep yourself centered and focused because it's easy to get caught up in the chaos. And I have found, having an opportunity in business for 44 years and on this planet now for 65 years, if you get caught up in that chaos too emotionally, then it gets even more out of control. So just trying to stay centered, aware of what's going on, conscious of what's going on. And, but it's a time I've never experienced in my life.
Yeah, I see that. I believe that. And then I had mentioned to you, I was reading this book last night called The Way of the Superior Man. And it talks about the polarity between the masculine and the feminine. Even though it refers to a man and a woman, it doesn't necessarily mean man or woman. It's just masculine and feminine. But it talks about how the masculine, it should withstand no matter how much chaos there is within the feminine and just basically sit in it within peace. Because if you can maintain that type of peace in the chaos within the polarity of masculine and feminine, as a man, you'll also be able to do that out in the world, in the business world, and in all other forms of chaos. So there's definitely something there.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah. And you mentioned something about essentially a different way of catching bees with honey, but just it's something about you and, back in the day, it wasn't the same, or perhaps you had somewhat of a temper and you dealt with things differently as you do today. Yeah.
Oh, very much so. And I think having the support and connection to community is more important than ever because also, like say, not one person has the answer. You have to kind of rely on your community to be part of that because you cannot be the expert of everything. You can't be everywhere of everything. So having that community believes in your values and your direction is so critical. And that's so important, both at TS Designs as a small business here in Berwick, North Carolina, but then on our farm or in the community which I live in, it just takes a lot of people that share those values to kind of make things happen.
Yeah, I can imagine. Not that small, by the way. I don't consider it very small, at least in my opinion. Eric, I watched in the documentary, The True Cost. Have you seen that doc?
Yes.
Okay. So it's a pretty well-known documentary in the sort of conscious capitalism industry, specifically in the fast fashion textile industry. So anyone out there who hasn't seen it, I highly recommend it. But I essentially learned there that the textile industry and the fast fashion industry in general, it's the dirtiest or, second worst.
Number two.
Yep. Second worst to the environment after oil.
Yep.
And it's just mind-blowing to me. When did you find that out?
It goes back to the date January 1, 1994, and that's when North American Free Trade Agreement was ratified. So prior to that business, our customers were brands that, Tommy, Nike, Gap, Polo, and 120 people in this business We moved in at 20,000 square feet. Business was great. NAFTA's ratified. Within 2 years, we went from 120 to 12. The brands could not get overseas quick enough. And then there's been the World Trade Agreements. There's been a lot of other agreements since that point. We live in a global economy. We're not going to put that genie back in the bottle. But one thing I will say that's really coming to my mind as I kind of live in an area that we're at the intersection of agriculture that's behind me, a cotton farmer 60 miles away, but literally the shirt that I have on today never left the state of North Carolina. So we never participate in that. We're quite aware of what's happening in the global economy, have a responsibility. But I do believe, as you said, the number two, what we have given the apparel industry since the mid-90s is a free ticket to maximize their bottom line while screwing the people on the planet. And yes, there's some brands that are dancing around the edges of some recycled polyester, organic cotton, and all those little bits are good. But those days are numbered where there's going to be accountability for that type of behavior. And maybe not my lifetime, but eventually that apparel industry and those companies will have to transition back and be more accountable for the people on the planet, or those businesses will go away. But those trade agreement is what caused what we call fast fashion today. The race to the bottom of cheap, and the environment and the people get screwed along the way. And those days, I believe, are numbered.
Is that when you decided to do something about it? Was that then, or was that the spark, the beginning of something for you?
No, that was a spark. Everybody told us on January 1990, everybody said, you need to go overseas and get an overseas partner. I mean, we weren't talking about impact people, impact plan. We're talking about, because prior to 1994, and when I started my business in 1978, business was about the bottom line. And, but bottom line in the context of a local economy, because this was a textile community. So I remember when Nike's apparel headquarters was in Charlotte, North Carolina, 60 miles from here, because that's where apparel was made. So those trade agreements, people took advantage of them. And again, we live in a global economy. Somebody took advantage of them and did not care about impact people and planet. But we just thought then, when we saw that business, there's something wrong about leaving our community that could produce a product all here to go halfway around the world to produce it cheaper, only to bring it back to our community to sell. And we laid off the people that were going to buy the product. I mean, there was just something wrong with that picture. And, but it was, we were at ground zero of the domestic apparel business, and we got devastated. Not only our company, a lot of companies went out, a lot of people lost their jobs. And I think COVID was a wake-up call again of the weakness of a global model when you have a global disruption. And there will be another one sometime in the future. We definitely have things in the world that could easily tip us over again.
Right.
And those economies don't work very well. And we're just fortunate we can do it all right here in the way of textiles and apparel.
What motivated you to focus on cotton specifically?
Again, a lot of things, our business in life was a lot, I started my business at NC State, just printing T-shirts. And that time, there wasn't a 50-50, it was 100% cotton. But it was watching what happened with NAFTA, watching the brands and my customers go overseas. And I realized, wait a minute, we grow great cotton in North Carolina, but I can't get it anymore. I see it in the fields, but I can't access it. So, again, the light bulb went on. We developed a relationship with the cotton farm behind me, the Burleson & Sons, again, probably about 60 miles from here. 16, 17 years ago, I went down there and met Ronnie, and now work with his son, Andrew. And I'll never forget the first time I met with Ronnie, because somebody said, because I knew our shirts were cotton. I knew it came out of cotton field, but I didn't know a cotton farmer. So somebody said, you go talk to Ronnie. They did about 3,000 acres. And the first time I met Ronnie, he says, why do you want to buy my cotton? Why do you want to go through all that trouble where you can, at that time, it was a 1-800 number, a fax number to get all the T-shirts I wanted. I said, I want to know where my cotton came from, and I want to be able to control that cotton to that finished T-shirt, which we describe as dirt to shirt. And the only way to do it is make the transaction with you as the farmer. And one thing I've found over the years is having the relationship with supply chain, you have a lot more understanding, value, and commitment. It's just not a price. There's years we pay more for their cotton out of that field than the market says you would pay. But it just builds a relationship. And those relationships are super valuable in challenging times.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. From dirt to shirt. I had never heard that.
Yep. Yes. That's one of those things we made up along the way to kind of describe what we do.
I love that. That's super cool. Eric, how has your personal perspective on sustainability changed over time? Because something that sparked for you in the 90s was, okay, this just doesn't feel right. It doesn't seem right that I have to go all the way across the world and have someone else do it, and people are losing jobs here, and then I'm still bringing it back here. It just doesn't make logical sense. But then as time has passed, we've learned more and more things about sustainability and other great reasons to practice sustainability. And it's not just about, the jobs, and it's not just about one thing. Right now we're getting to the soil and what it does to the soil when we're not sustainable and all kinds of stuff. So what do you think have been the major changes for you personally, in terms of thinking about sustainability?
Well, again, we have another tagline for that. Sustainability is a journey, not a destination. And what I like to say with that is we're continuing to learn. I mean, there's things that either we were not aware of. And again, you got to remember, when I started a business, we didn't talk about climate change. We didn't know the carbon impact that man was having on the planet. And so, constantly be aware, how do we improve? Because one thing I like to say when people come visit TS Designs, every day you have choices. Choices, the food you eat, the clothes you wear, the energy you use.
That's right.
Just be aware of those choices. And again, there is no silver bullet, perfect solution. Everything we do has an impact. But when you become aware of that impact, you take something like that. I'm having my coffee out now. We eliminated styrofoam cups out of this building 30 years ago. Something that you can still buy. There might be some places for them, but it's not in our business.
Yeah.
So I always say small things over a long time have big impact. So got away with styrofoam cups, individual sugar and cream. Our room, lights are off now, but, this plant was built by an architect, best design at the time. But it was, we didn't look at climate change. We didn't talk about our energy footprint. We use those big flat fluorescent tubes 20 feet up in the air. Now when you come in our facility, it's all LED. It's only light we want to work. It's light much lower. So again, I think a lot of times people are looking for that, what's that big thing I could do? And there are some big things to do, but most things are the little things, things you interact with every day. And that's, again, back to it's a journey, not a destination. We know we're having an impact, but also be aware of what can we do. And I've had meetings all day today. We're constantly looking, how do we make our supply chain more transparent? Another thing that's really missing in the apparel industry. And how do we have a better environmental impact? And again, look at the overall, not just what happens in the field behind me, but all the way, again, something new. 4 or 5 years ago, we were talking about the end of life. I was glad you bought my T-shirt. Sale, good job. Now I have a responsibility. What do you do with that T-shirt when you finish with it? Now we're talking about that circular economy. We weren't talking about that 5 years ago. So just constantly being aware, being connected, and being responsible. But you have to transition. And I think that's what's kept us in the game for TS Designs has now been around 47 years. I've been here 44 years. And it's, we're totally different. I was meeting staff yesterday. We're a totally different business this year than we were this time last year with technology, with some of our customers, with our processes. And there's so many things that are in transition. And we're learning that we didn't even know about a year ago.
Yeah, that's impressive, Eric. And I find I think what you said about it being a journey, it goes along for just about any business and just life in general, because you're constantly learning new things. You could essentially become a new human every single day. So you have to consider, like, what is the best that I can do with the information that I have today, right? So, and that goes along very much so for the business. But I can see that for a business, it's got to be so much harder as you're looking to scale something, right? So even back then, like, you must have been getting crushed on the pricing aspect, right? So from a competition standpoint, when you're looking to scale a sustainable business by trying to do good, doing the right thing on very many aspects of it, what's the biggest challenge when you're looking to scale something that's a sustainable business and you're still trying to sell? So you got to somehow be competitive, right? So how did that work for you?
Hey guys, I just want to remind you, if you want to find more content like this, you can visit sebastiannam.com. That's Sebastian,
naum.com. You can also get a ton of other marketing resources from myself and my agencies, ranging from SEO to social media, influencer marketing, branding, web development, and more. Again, that's sebastiannaum.com. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the show.
For us, it gets down to one thing: it's education. We got to educate the consumer, the buyer, whatever. And when we decided not to make that transition to, which would go manufacturing Mexico, Central America, Asia, a lot of people just saw the cost savings. We weren't talking about income inequality. We weren't talking about climate change. We weren't talking about the lack of transparency. We just everybody focused on price. So it was a very, very difficult conversation. Fast forward to today, that's a lot easier conversation. And really, the people that don't move forward, it's either a personal financial constraint. Our stuff costs more, not because it's where it's made and how it's made. We represent the whole cost of it, or a budget constraint of their business. But I do find in general more people are aware, and at least it's they don't quickly say, "Oh, you made USA. It's more expensive because you're inefficient. What you're doing." No, they're. So I think the understanding through education. So we all like to say, is our best customer is an educated customer, because if you come to me and say, "I want 1 million T-shirts, but I need your lowest possible price," I'm going to say, it's not us. I mean, there's, if you're at this point in the game, and I kind of use climate change, same thing. At this point in the game, you still have questions about climate change, I'm not going to sit there and debate or argue with you, because I'm going to spend that energy that I got to work with people that realize we got to change. They might be doing less than me, more than me, or whatever, but they agree there's an issue here. I want to work with those people. I don't really have the energy to just, the race to the bottom. And there's some pushback now in our political environment about businesses that care more than the bottom line. The woke capitalists, I think is what I've been called. And I'm not here to put that, but for as a business, I want as much information as knowledge as possible. And I don't want to narrow down. And, we are not, yes, we talk, when we're coming in, we talk about our bottom line. We talk it's good, it's bad. You got to talk about that.
Yeah.
We'll keep the lights on. But it's not the only thing that drives our business. And I will not be a part of a business that the only thing we focus on is maximizing that, because that is what's caused the problems of today. Is we've given businesses, basically the apparel industry, for example, a free check or a free pass to skip over the people and planning, just go to that bottom line and look what that's. It's very frustrating. I get very excited about this stuff. Is that we are here because of that mistake, and let's don't go back to that.
Absolutely agreed. You said you've been called a woke capitalist. Does that have an underlying negative tone or a positive tone? Because that sounds cool as shit to me.
Well, and again, it's been more in general. I mean, it means nothing to me, depending on the positive or negative. I just think it's just kind of the buzzword of the time. But the whole pushback, I am concerned because I'm very, I guess, active on a political environment in North Carolina. We're one of those purple states, and a lot of back and forth. But there's legislation that wants to limit government, especially as their investment in the pensions, and not look at companies that have an ESG platform or whatever, and again, I go back and says, I'm not even going to talk about the environmental social. I'm going to talk about, I want as much information as possible. Let me make a decision. If I want to invest in a fossil fuel industry, let me make that investment, but don't restrict the information about this company or that company. Give me all the information. Let me decide. Don't try to dictate who I should be. Anyway, there's a lot of unnecessary noise out there.
That's so interesting, and it's something that I'm not personally too involved with in the politics aspect of it, right? So I serve on the board of Conscious Capitalism here in Los Angeles, but through that, it's more so about generating awareness, gathering events, getting entrepreneurs together, getting people to practice sustainable in terms of their business and things like that. But on the political side, I mean, that's a whole different ballgame when you want to get involved on the political side, and so. That's got to be an interesting thing for you. And I love what you said about you're just trying to get all the information possible. Like, let's just get all the information we can and then make decisions from there, not based on, associations with, doing one thing one way or another. Why do you think that is such a polarizing topic in terms of practicing capitalism in a conscious way? It's as if a side or a certain type of, person thinks that doing that makes you hate money or something like that, right? Like that's kind of, right? It's like that's kind of the attitude sometimes.
Right.
Just mind-blowing to me.
It is. I mean, I try to wrap my head around it is that, I respect you for where you are and what you are, and it's not for me to judge right or it's wrong, but unfortunately there is certain people that want to dictate the narrative, which the direction they want to see go. And I think it gets you going down the bad path because again, you're restricting the information. And it's kind of, I live in let's say we are a very Republican community. I mean, our county that we're in, our whole governmental system Republican. Now our state government, the Republicans have supermajority. Fortunately, I'm a big supporter of our governor and friend of our governor. But again, I like to say is not even one party has answers. When you get that, you need that perspective of both sides, and don't just alienate the other side because of it's a Democrat or Republican. And I think and we need as many ideas and suggestions, to come out and not, this people that either want to restrict the suggestions or they want to go back the way it used to be. And it's a strange time.
And here's the thing too, is that we see more and more studies are showing that brands that are doing good, whether that is because of the way they're treating their employees or their people, or they have sustainable practices, or whatever it is that they're doing, but they're practicing conscious capitalism, are actually doing better in the long run. So they're actually gaining more profits because the consumer is becoming more educated. And so we're going towards that. So ultimately, if you really just care about money, you actually can look at that too and see that these companies that are doing good are actually doing better.
Very much so. And I have an opportunity. We're kind of centered between some major universities, and I spend a lot of time on their campuses. And again, I was on a campus back in the late 70s, early 80s, and, business school was about the profits and all that. Now business schools have evolved, and we've got that ESG, that sustainability platform, but all of it profits, money. But I tell these students that looking back at business models through a triple bottom line of people, planet, profit creates tremendous opportunities that we've pushed aside. And again, I think we're working on right now just the apparel industry. I think in the next year or so, we will, bring a model to the market that's radically different, looking at people, planet, profit, and it will make domestic apparel manufacturing more cost efficient, more environmentally friendly. I mean, we address all the issues apparel industry get, but again, you've got to bring that holistic approach.
Yeah.
Because if you just bring that one little thing, you're more expensive there, no. The whole cradle to cradle model, which I like. Let's value on our whole platform and not one particular thing that we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What do you think is the biggest misconception about sustainable fashion? Because people are now starting to hear about that all the time. Sustainable fashion. Actors and actresses are talking about it, right? So people in the media are talking about it. Are there misconceptions about sustainable fashion you think that are out there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, my biggest hang up on sustainable fashions is that the brands will catch one little thing, organic cotton, recycled polyester. They'll just latch on to one thing. And I've experienced this firsthand. They get on that one thing and they don't care about anything else.
Yeah.
And I think we've got to change the conversation. I want sustainability of your overall supply chain and not just, that's organic cotton. I think it's already been a couple of years ago, New York Times did an article, a lot of that. And we buy some too. It's certified organic cotton. And I just get a piece of paper and it comes from some developing country in Asia. And they did, I forgot what the percent, but a high percentage of that organic cotton was not organic cotton.
Really?
And then I think you Google organic cotton, New York Times, there'll be certification. And then there was issue with the organic cotton ended up being in China and the Uyghurs, which is the, indentured servant slaves, whatever, putting it together. So somebody was telling me about a product that Nike did and had a phenomenal carbon footprint. Good job. But it was using recycled polyester, which sheds like crazy, AKA microplastics. So, that's what drives me crazy is I don't care if it's okay. You talk about carbon footprint. You talk about it. But again, I think there's responsibility and accountability of the overall impact. And right now, we lack those regulations like they have. Europe is much further ahead on this than we are, and hold brands accountable for that, as we know, aka greenwashing. And a lot of brands do that. They just tell that one little thing.
Yeah.
And that one little thing will be right, but the rest of the stuff is just a piece of crap.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention. I was going to say it's essentially greenwashing, and there should be laws and regulations around it.
Yeah.
There should be fines the same way there are fines about other things, right?
Yep.
Absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, the textile and fashion industry, it's the second worst industry for the environment after oil, which again, it's mind-blowing. I know we're talking about it. So, but without conscious consumers, we won't really be able to solve our sustainability problems. So the big challenge of sustainable fashion or sustainable textile companies like yourselves is to get people to be more conscious consumers. So how do you guys increase overall awareness so that consumers can make the right choices?
I think just walking the talk and pushing the window. One thing that we, and again, it's about the journey. One thing that we did with, the painting behind me, the cotton farmer, and we've always been about, the transparent supply chain. Through COVID, we converted that over to a QR code. You scan the QR code, and you can connect directly with the farmer. The picture of the individual, phone number, physical address, email. You can contact the cotton farmer, anybody in the supply chain. And I had a brand in here last year, and again, I know we live in a global economy. I'm not saying it's all come back here, but my call to action to this particular brand, I won't embarrass them during your podcast, is, they had this very beautiful, well-done sustainability report and all the stuff we're doing. And I said, I think the number one thing that apparel industry can do towards sustainability is make your supply chain transparent. Give me that facility that's in China or Bangladesh or Vietnam. I won't go there, but trust me enough to say, this is the facility, this is the contact, this is the phone number, this is the email. Let me have that information. Won't give it to you. And if little bitty TS Designs in Burlington, North Carolina can make our supply chain, the brands, they give you all this gobbledygook. We don't know. That means either you don't control it or you don't care about it. But I think, and I tell again, back to one thing I ask people when I tour a facility, one of the first questions I'll ask them, can they tell me without looking the country of origin the T-shirt they're wearing that day is? Most people can't even tell you the country. I said, well, that's mistake one. At least know that part. And the next thing, whatever brand you support, because, it's like, just tell them that you want to have access to that information. Trust me with that information. But again, I think that's step one. The consumer has to do it. Ultimately, we need regulation to do it. This even made in USA is a bunch of crap, because legally you can have a made in USA product, say made in USA, but it can be imported fabric. And you'll say, well, God, why is that pair of jeans so much cheaper than those pair of jeans? Well, they're importing the fabric from company exit. So I think we could go a long way is making, again, we like the idea. We are not a perfect company. There's always room for improvement, but there's not going to be any secret where our cotton comes from or how our cotton is processed.
Yeah.
And, you get to see the dirty laundry with it. And we're not, the cotton behind me, that is not organic cotton. We're struggling to grow organic cotton. That is GMO, genetically modified. But, they do things like cover crops. They do no-till. They do a lot of things for soil health. But another thing I kind of, preach to the brands that say, well, we got to have organic cotton. I said, the first thing you need to do, because I'm big into, we'll talk hemp about it later, is, you're complaining about what the cotton farmer is doing, but you failed to meet the farmer in the field to negotiate that farmer works in a commodity agriculture market. The marketplace dictates what they get paid for their cotton. So that we as the industry of commoditization has basically forced that cotton farmer to make decisions to stay in business. So as I said, the brands, go to the field, beat the farmer, get your answer, and make that commitment. And they'll change, but to sit there and just in your office and dictate, well, we got to have organic cotton is a non-starter. And that will never happen. And the brands, and I've said that to many times, many places, and now I'm saying with hemp, the brand screwed up cotton, and now they want to talk all about regeneration. That's great. Let's don't do the same thing with hemp by just saying, oh, we've got to have it at this price, because you force the farmer to make bad decisions because of the economic constraints you put on them.
It's just, it can feel a little overwhelming. It's systemic. There's so many pieces to the puzzle, right?
Yes.
That lead to something else. So personally, like, I'll be honest, right? I love fashion, not in the sense I'm not a fashionista, but I like to have my style, right? I like my vibe. I think it's sometimes representative of who you are, right? It's part of you being creative with yourself. And and it's only been a few years now that I've started to look for certain things, when I make purchasing decisions. So before I let you go, I want to ask you that is, okay, without getting into the whole aspect that we were just talking about, so many parts of the puzzle that need to be fixed, but just as a consumer, what is something that they can do when they're out buying clothes? Like you said, one of the things is at least know where your t-shirt is from.
Yes.
Right? That's one. Is there something else that could be easy? For example, I know that there's an app that I recently learned about called Good On You. I don't know how accurate it is.
Right.
You heard that, by the way?
No.
So you should check it out. But basically, Good On You, mostly for textiles and fabrics and fashion, and you put in the brand, and it tells you how they're doing between like a 0 and a 5 on a rating, and it takes in several aspects in terms of people, plan, and buy, whatever, right? But is there what else other than just at least know where that's coming from? Is there something else that consumers can actually do so they can be a little bit more conscious about this?
I like to say, because, again, something that we've created in the last 23 years, the whole, issue with microplastics. I mean, it's in us now. I mean, you and I have it in our bodies.
Right.
So I'm big natural fiber focused. I don't care if it's recycled polyester, it's good. We just don't need polyester on clothes because it's the washing process that creates it. So between cotton, wool, and hemp, very excited about, we're not there yet with hemp in the U.S. I think it's about 2 years or 3 years out. I've been on that journey for 6 years. But once we get hemp there, we bring in wool. Most of our apparel needs will be addressed. So we need to avoid synthetics, where they come from, the fossil fuel industry, and then the whole microplastic issue. So I would say, know your brand, see what your brand's doing, and stay away. And again, it's going to help the whole circular economy and all that stuff. It's going to be easier to process than the problem you have when you take a synthetic and mix it with the biodegradable material. Then you got an intimate thing here that you've got. It's hard to break apart. But if it's all cellulose, i.e. cotton or hemp, wool, well, that's not cellulose, but a natural fiber, I should say, it's going to be much easier to recycle and or compost than you will be with synthetic. So factor on the fibers next would be my suggestion.
Right on. Well, Eric, awareness is the first major step to a lot of this, right? And that's why I bring on leaders such as yourself to raise awareness about all these things. So, thank you for doing what you're doing. And before you leave, Eric, what are 2 traits that a conscious leader must embody today?
Be aware and be responsible every day. I mean, you just got to be aware of what's, and there's the thing, I wake up every day, just be aware and be responsible what's going on and act accordingly.
Love it. Simple, short, sweet, right to the point. Love it, Eric.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Keep doing what you're doing. And thanks again.
Thank you for the opportunity. Have a great day.
Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. It takes a lot to put these things together, but I truly love doing it. If you enjoyed this episode or the show in general, and you listen to it on audio podcast, please take some time to give it a review. It would really mean a lot to me. And if you watch the video, please go ahead and just click subscribe and share it with somebody that you think would like it. It would really mean the world to me, and it helps keep the show alive. Visit sebastiannaum.com for more content, and follow me on Instagram at sebnaum. That's SEBNAUM. Thanks again for spending your time with me. I know it is valuable. I hope you have a great rest of the day and week. Till next time.